Life in Paris was hard during the German occupation, which lasted until 1944, and for the following 10 or 15 years. I remember walking to school in snow with my wooden clogs while the fountains were frozen. We could warm up in one room around a coal stove during the evening, but there was otherwise no heat. Food was scarce, there was sometimes no gas for cooking, and occasionally no electricity. Unfortunately, for several generations, my family, on both my father's and my mother's side, has featured prominent academicians, some of them pretty smart, and I was expected to uphold the tradition. As a result, I had to be the youngest of my class in the best French high school, in the toughest programs, which combined the full classical program of French, Latin, and Greek, plus the full science program of math, physics, and chemistry. At around age 14, I broke down and had to repeat a year. Then it was off to the dreaded college classes of mathématiques supérieures and mathématiques spéciales to prepare for the entrance test to the top French university, the École Normale Supérieure. I failed, but was admitted to a less prestigious engineering school. A degree from the École Normale opens virtually every door throughout one's life. That was to have been my destiny since the day I was born. What I really wanted to do was fly airplanes, but I wore out my eyes during endless nights of study and could no longer pass the very stringent medical required to join either Air France or the French Air Force. I obtained my glider's license at 16, 2 years before I was allowed to drive a car, and got my airplane license at 17 in order to join an Air Cadet exchange program. Through that program, I did a VIP tour of the United States and met President Eisenhower at the White House. A few years later, I managed to attend a dozen free 2-week sessions on advanced piloting and aerobatics at the National Flight Center in Carcassonne, and then took additional training at the National Flight Centers of Saint-Yan to get my professional pilot license and Challes-les-Eaux to become an instructor. Flying with students north of Paris on weekends and holidays allowed me to survive for a few years while pretending to train as an electrical engineer. My failure at the École Normale turned into my own personal Great Depression at the thought that I had proven to be the family idiot. I spent the next few years in complete disarray. I rode off a car in northern Norway while on holidays with friends, damaged a light aircraft while trying, with a cast around my ankle, to recover from a poor landing by a student, demolished my father's car by driving over the dotted line of a highway and smashing into a truck while coming home at 75 miles per hour as if I were taking off in a Messerschmitt 108, the civil version of the 109, that I had been flying all day, and eventually flew upside down, close to the ground, with a student in an open cockpit biplane over the River Oise, near Paris, until the engine stopped. We landed on a field of young wheat, but the plane flipped over on its back. It was either jump off a bridge or renounce the world as I knew it, which I chose. I decided to retire from civilization and hide in the deep forests of British Columbia, as far from home as I could go, to work as a logger. I arrived in Vancouver at 25 with $200 in my pocket and no return ticket, knowing nobody in the city. In January 1965, the logging camps in BC were closed because of snow, but I found a job as a pilot and flight instructor. I had suddenly entered heaven. British Columbia was spectacular, the people kind and open-minded, and the opportunities limitless. Civil servants at the Ministry of Transport actually helped me convert my French commercial and instructor licenses to their Canadian equivalents after many ground and flight tests, instead of explaining why flying commercially in Canada was not an option for a new immigrant. I decided that this was going to be my country, and that I would be flying for a living, since pilots were allowed to wear glasses in Canada.